Modernism was an international cultural movement which affected the literature and arts in the first decades of 20th century. Modernists were against tradition and Western values. They interrupted the father-to-son transmission of classic knowledge, literature, art, and science. Modern poetry began with the imagism invented by the American poet Ezra Pound. Images used a clear image which the poet represents and shows often. They were very short but effective poems. Ezra Pound was an American poet, critic, and a central figure in modernist literature for his experimentation with language and for images. He met T.S. Eliot and James Joyce, but his support was for fascism during World War I. Pound moves on from images to what he called vorticism, and after he changed in the ideogram. The most important work of Ezra Pound are In the Station of Metro, The Cantos, and Usura. In a Station of the Metro is the shortest famous poem in modern poetry, and the title tells us where we are. Pound walks the street of Paris and sees crowds of people getting out the subway as they are from the world of death. The syntax is compressed and the perception is urban, but also timeless. At first, it is a 30-line poem, but he is cutting things down and eliminating words, using Japanese and Chinese poetry as models for this. The Cantos is a series of incomplete epic poems incorporating a wide range of themes, styles, and languages. The characters of the cantos are divided into three groups: those who enjoy their hellish state and remain the same, those who experience a metamorphosis to get out of the darkness, those who become leaders of the mass moving towards the land of lights, which is Paradiso Terrestre. In the end of the poem, he appealed to mankind to improve the human condition and not to become the destroyers. The last poem is Usura. Ezra Pound, ever since he left the United States, began his reflection on economy, and when he came into contact with fascism, Pound found in Mussolini and Italian fascism a powerful vehicle for his own economic ideas. For Pound, usury is the cancer of the world, and the capitalism caused a transformation in exchange value of money and of labor. In capitalism, people tend to believe that power and value are inside money. But before capitalism, the process was CMC, commodity, money, commodity. Now is MCM, money, commodity, money process, which becomes, for Marx, the general formula for capital. The aim of the capitalist becomes making more money, which Ezra Pound called usury, money, money, MM. T.S. Eliot. Eliot was born in the United States. He was a poet, an essayist, and a literary critic. He became a British citizen and converted to Anglicanism in 1927. He theorized the mythical method, the objective correlative, and the impersonality of the artist. The mythical method is the continued comparison to when the story made sense. It is the opposite of the narrative method. The impersonality of the artist is an act of self-sacrifice. The poet's task is not to present but to represent, not to say but to show. The objective correlative gives the universal formula of an emotion. The poet's task is to give an universal formula in order to evoke that emotion and only that. His most famous poem is The Wasteland. This poem is a mirror of a chaotic reality. There are no time rules. There are frequent shifts in time and place. There are no logical rules and connections. The poem is full of quotation from Christian and Hindu holy scriptures. According to the mythical method, there is no omniscient speaking voices, but several different voices from many periods in the past. The wasteland is set in the post-war Europe, especially in the Austrian Empire, which was in decadence. The poem represents the breakdown of European culture and society. The 20th century can be considered as a heap of broken images. Certains are now shattered. Man place in the universe, Victorian values, respectability, marriage, family rules, the power of the reason to control the human mind, new scientific discoveries. All these factors brought to the end of positivistic faith in science and progress. The wasteland is bits of culture broken up by war and reassembled in a new frame. The mythical past is now in fragments, in pieces. James Joyce. James Joyce was born in Dublin in 1882. Ireland was the centre of paralysis. Irish people were passive and able to rebel against the British rule. Dubliners is a collection of 15 short stories about people living in Dublin who were oppressed by British cultural imperialism. The dominant theme of the 15 short stories is the failure to find a way out of the paralysis. This critical moment is called an epiphany. An epiphany is the sudden manifestation of a hidden or removed truth. It is a spiritual revelation caused by an external object. After the epiphany, the character changes his understanding of himself and the reality around him. Evelyn, that is a little Eve, is the story of a young woman abused by her alcoholic father. She has the chance to leave to Buenos Aires with her boyfriend Frank. But when she hears a song that reminds of her melody that she hears on the day of her mother's death, there is an epiphany for her. Evelyn promised her mother to look after the house and keep the family together. At the dock, where she and Frank are about to embark, Evelyn decides to not leave. Evelyn is paralyzed in her horrible life. The death. Gabriel is a college professor and a literary critic. He embodies what Joyce would have been if he had not escaped Dublin. Greta is Gabriel's wife that on a night hears a song that reminds her about a guy, Michael, who used to sing it and who died for her love when she was 17. Greta seems to be very distant and moved. She's still thinking about that song and that boy. Gabriel asked her, "What did he die of?" "I think he died for me." Greta's answer is a real epiphany for Gabriel. He has never had anything or anyone to live or die for. His life suddenly appears to him empty. Michael is the only character who dies in the story, but he proves to be the only person who has truly lived. A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man is an autobiographical story of Stephen Dedalus, a young Irish writer that is Joyce's fictional double. He is a rebel against his family, his religion, his nation. Non serviam, that is, I will not serve, is his motto, the phrase which Lucifer uttered when he rejected God. Stephen is the first Christian martyr, stoned to death for preaching. Dedalus escaped the labyrinth using wax wigs, and Stephen is a martyr for art. Ulysses. In Ulysses, Joyce's masterpiece, Stephen Dedalus returns to Dublin. He has failed as an artist. Now he is only a simple teacher. The story is set in Dublin on a single day. Stephen has lost his father figure. Simon Dedalus has cut him out of his life. Another Dubliner, Leopold Bloom, son of an Hungarian Jew, suffers from two emotional crises: the loss of his father and his son, and the infidelity of his wife, Molly Bloom. Stephen, Leopold, and Molly correspond to Telemachus, Ulysses, and his faithful wife, Penelope. Samuel Beckett. Beckett was born in Dublin, Ireland. He was influenced by French existentialism, especially by Sartre. For existentialism, human life was meaningless, and this created a sense of confusion. The universe was seen as an absurd. Beckett is considered the father of the theatre of the absurd. The first form of theatre was the theatre of anger, which attacked the establishment. The second form of theatre was the theatre of absurd, under the influence of existentialism, is based on a pessimistic view of the existence of man. The main themes of Beckett's works are man's alienation, the cruelty of human life, the absence of goals. Beckett wrote his first work in two languages. Samuel Beckett's masterpiece, Waiting for Godot, was first written in French to keep his language as simple and detached as possible. In the work, all the characters are trapped in a situation from which they cannot escape. Waiting for Godot has no plot. On stage, the characters talk but don't really communicate. They do not act, they do nothing. All they do is argue about nothing, just to fill the time and avoid the silence, because silence indicates emptiness and absurdity. There is no past and no future. It's a kind of an eternal nightmare. The opera is divided into two acts, but there is no difference between the first and the second act. Both end with a young man telling the protagonist, Vladimir and Extragon, that Godot will arrive the next day. All we can see on stage is a country road and a tree, so it can be anywhere, anytime. The protagonists are two vagabonds, Extragon, Gogo for short, and Vladimir, Didi. They are complementary and represent body, Gogo, and mind, Didi. There is another complementary couple, Pozzo, the master, and Lucky, the slave. In the second act, the rules are reversed, and it emerges that Lucky is the real engine of the couple, because he will impose on Pozzo. Pozzo and Lucky can remind us of Hegel's master-slave relationship.